In this video, I want to rank each of the Sprunki horror characters from most evil to least evil, based on the information that the developers have given us, and also some of the clues that the community have unlocked as of now. The categories will be pure evil, wicked, bad, and then good at the bottom because some of the characters really didn't do anything wrong. Now, starting with the pure evil tier, we have Wenda, and I feel like she has to be in this one because she was one of the first characters that was confirmed to be a killer. And while we don't know every person that she took out, we do know that she uses a knife and is covered in somebody's blood, which I believe to be Pinky's personally. I say this because the developers have already confirmed that Pinky gets attacked by Wenda and has her face ripped off, which kind of makes sense because Wenda is a cat and that just seems like something that a cat would do. We also know that Wenda was able to steal Turner's gun and put a bullet right in his cap. And while I know that there's like a lot of theories out there that say that Wenda was actually like a victim in all this and she was manipulated into killing, I don't really buy it. I think that she's just evil. And also the developer said that Wenda probably has a rude personality, which is kind of just the cherry on top here, and I think solidifies her position in the pure evil tier. Next in this tier is going to be Simon, and his downfall in the horror mod is kind of sad because he went from being the protagonist in the normal version to being a villain in the horror version. And while we still don't know everything that he did, we know that he bit off half a bruised head, and while I think he's technically still alive, I can't imagine he's doing very well. Something else that I found interesting here is that the developer said that Simon is one of the fastest Sprunkies beside Ratty, and with that knowledge, I think it makes more sense why more Sprunkies were not able to actually get away from the killing. Now, I know a lot of you are probably expecting me to put Black in this category, but I think I can't put him here because technically he hasn't done anything wrong, although I wouldn't call him necessarily a good character either, but I think I'm going to have to place him further down in this video. With that being said, let's move over to the Wicked tier, and I'm going to go ahead and place some of the abnormal characters here, starting with Durple, aka Big Purple. And while it doesn't say Durple killed anyone, he is one of the few people to actually survive completely unharmed, and now for whatever reason his face is able to stretch and just look so creepy and wrong. And also considering that he is friends with Simon, I wouldn't be surprised if he actually helped in some way with the destruction that actually happened in this horror mod. Another character that I want to add to this tier is going to be Mr. Sun, and he also has the title abnormal, but more suspicious is the fact that his eye matches the eyes that pop up in the background of the mod. And while it's just a theory floating around, many people believe that Mr. Sun is able to actually see just about everything that's happening in this world and was actually able to inform Wenda and Simon about where most of the other Sprunkies were hiding, which is why so few people survived. And honestly, that theory kind of makes sense to me. Next, I'm going to add Mr. Fun Computer. I'm not going to call him Mr. Funbot this time. And while I've heard some of the arguments for this character being one of the good guys, I actually think that the horror version is evil. When he says the line, I know in a way he could be trying to warn people, but the counter argument is that everyone is pretty much dead already. It feels more like he's actually trying to be scary and ominous to freak out survivors, in my opinion. Now, moving over to the bad tier, I'm gonna go ahead and start with Jevin, and I know the developers have already confirmed that he's technically a good guy, which is why I don't really have him ranked any higher, but hear me out. When reading up on him, I actually learned that he's a cultist, and he even has an axe that he doesn't use unless he's forced to. And this made me a little suspicious because when you look at the character named Oren, he was actually killed by something called the Blood Eagle torture method, which basically splits a person's back open or their chest area. I also learned that this was a ritual used by Vikings back in the day and required a long blade or hooks to be attached to the person's body. And as of now, the only person that had a large bladed weapon was Jevin, and since he is a cultist, it would make sense that he would actually do this type of ritual. And furthermore, when you look at his face, he doesn't even seem to care that so many Sprunkies are dead.
We do not care.
Next, I'm going to go ahead and place Black here. And while there isn't any evidence that Black is actually evil, just looking at his face, I kind of get evil vibes. And I don't think that we can ignore the fact that he's the one that actually allows us to teleport to this horror universe. So I think it's fairly safe to assume that he has something to do with the chaos that's actually happening here. I also like that the community has come up with a ton of good theories that kind of revolve around Black being the cause of everything happening here. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and leave him just in the bad tier. Now, the next one may throw a few people off, but I'm going to go ahead and place Garnold here. This is the character that helped create Mr. Funbot and Mr. Computer, and I'm going to go ahead and place him in the bad tier because he dies from his spring lock suit triggering while he's in it. And as I'm sure a lot of you know, this is a clear reference to Springtrap from the FNAF series. So I feel like if this character is based on Springtrap, he probably isn't necessarily a good guy. So I'm gonna go ahead and put him in the bad tier. Now, moving over to the characters that I think are actually good, we're gonna start with Oren and Pinky. And I had to place these two together because they're actually the only two Sprunkies that are dating. And it's kind of sad that Oren passed away and Pinky was left with like a torn up face because they were some of the kind of Sprunkies in the whole mod apparently. Next we have Silver, and I think this guy falls into the good tier because I couldn't find anything bad on him, and he also is one of the people who died. And if we're being honest, he also has a symbol on his head, which means that he can't even make a move without making this sound. I simply can't imagine this guy being a bad guy while carrying that on his head. Funbot is another character that was created by Silver and Garnold, but unlike Mr. Computer, he isn't doing anything creepy or like suspicious in my opinion. I also found it interesting that the developers said that even if Funbot was given a gun, he wouldn't use it. And I think that kind of shows us that he's supposed to be like one of the good characters. Next we have Ratty, and after reading about this guy, he actually is pretty angry and kind of a bad guy. Apparently he even hit Lime in the head with a hammer, which may be why like Lime's eye is kind of messed up. But even with that knowledge, Ratty still didn't deserve to die the way that he did, and I still can't really call him evil. Something else that I found interesting about this character as well is that he's one of the two fastest Sprunkies, which means that since Simon is the other one, if he wouldn't have turned evil, Ratty may have actually had a chance to survive. Next we have Veneria, and at first I thought that she survived, but apparently a plant was able to get inside her body and then it started to grow until it burst out of her head, specifically her eyes, leaving her quite dead. But from my understanding, she wasn't really involved in any of the killing that happened. And just a little fun fact about her, apparently the vines on her head are actually a wig, and her character design for the most part is based off Nutty from the Happy Tree Friends. Next we have Gray, and we know that he isn't a bad guy because he's considered to be the main character in the horror mod. Also, the only reason that he survived the killing is because he was able to hide while it was all happening. There's also an interesting theory about Gray having schizophrenia, and everything that we actually see in the horror mod is just his mind playing tricks on him. But all in all, I think that this character is probably one of the good guys. Brown literally gets his head bitten off by Simon, so I'm almost immediately sure that he wasn't one of the evil characters, because I feel like Simon wouldn't have bit him if that was the case. But also, when you read his wiki, we also kind of learn that Brown isn't the smartest character, but he does have a kind heart. He's basically one of those dumb characters that is just loved by everyone and kind to everybody, so I feel like he can't go anywhere except the good tier. Next we have Lime, and this is another character that was inspired by Nutty from the Happy Tree Friends. And I knew that this character wasn't a villain or a bad guy because even in a regular game, he looked scared, so I knew that he wasn't going to be a part of whatever killing mob was in this horror version. And I guess it was also confirmed with the fact that he had like his lower jaw ripped off and his lower body peeled away, so obviously he wasn't a part of whoever was doing the killing. Sky is next, and this one's actually pretty sad because when I was doing some reading on him, I actually learned that he's only 14, making him the youngest Sprunky. So it was a shame that somebody took him out in such a brutal way, putting those little poles through his head and eyes. And that kind of lets us know that he probably wasn't a part of whatever evil was going on here. But also, I just couldn't imagine a 14-year-old being a part of it anyway. Mr. Tree's next, and this was an interesting one because at its core, it's just a tree. And although I know that the missing girl sign did inspire a lot of theories from the community, some people even going as far as trying to find who the woman is. And with that, the tree is one of the few things that actually survived unharmed, but I still have a hard time like imagining that it had anything to do with the massacre that happened here, because at the end of the day, it is still just a tree. And last, we're gonna have to go with Turner, and this Sprunky was actually the sheriff and had a gun, or at least he did up until Wenda took it from him and then put a bullet in his muffin cap. But I know this guy was good because his hobbies was literally to protect the other Sprunkies from danger, which may be why Wenda actually went after him in the first place. She wanted to get rid of the sheriff so that she could actually have free roam on all these other Sprunkies, and she also had access to his gun now. Let me know what you thought of my video down below. Check out this video on the screen next. Subscribe today to become a member of the Orseofkorse, and we'll see you tomorrow with another video. Peace, and happy Halloween.